The circumstances of this attack were relatively a normal behavior. Unfortunately, the hunter startled the bear at a close distance.
Now a Hayden, Idaho man who survived a grizzly bear attack in Montana is preparing to have a second surgery.
Bob Legasa and his hunting partner surprised a grizzly bear and her cub in Montana last October.
Basically a fight for my life and just doing whatever I could to keep her away from me and keep those claws and those teeth away from my head.
He is now recovering at a hospital in Bozeman. Just to warn you, the images you are about to see might be considered a bit graphic.
They had seen grizzly bears before, just never like this.
Cub grizzly stood up on it, reared up and growled and took off. And as soon as Mom heard that, she was just beelining straight for us.
Bob says he only had a few seconds to think.
Had my arm in her mouth. I'm on my butt and she's swatting at me and I'm blocking swings and kicking and yelling.
While Bob struggles with the massive bear, his friend grabs some bear spray.
I see Greg in the corner of my eye, gives her a blast.
It's enough to send the grizzly and her cub packing.
This red can of counter assault is what saved my life. So I have had a couple of, I don't want to say nightmares, but dreams of running bears or charging bears, and nothing that has been, nightmarish or PTSD-like. But so I did have a little bit of anxiety about coming out over here this year.
I think it was on my mind when I came back hunting. That even that next week, I went hunting in Idaho, and I felt like I really needed to get back in the woods. It was good to just, renew, to get out there and feel comfortable again and just get back into the game.
This year, coming back here to Montana with Greg, it was my turn to return the favor for Greg, not only for saving my life from the grizzly bear, but also for putting me out in front as the hunter when my wife had cancer, because I only had a short, limited amount of time to hunt. So Greg put me in front 2 years ago, made sure that I got all the opportunities. He put everything out there for me. And then also now with the bear attack and saving me.
Bob was going to return the favor to me and be the caller, and I was going to be the shooter, and that was the plan for the whole hunt coming into this year. And then in late January last year, tore my shoulder up, had to have surgery, and I'm still not quite there. So I'm the caller again this year, which has worked out really well for Bob.
On our first morning, we chose to hunt a drainage that we've hunted many times before. It's fairly open, as I really didn't want to be busting the thicker timber where bears like to hang. We got a response quickly. We needed to move fast before they headed up the mountain to bed. As we started closing the gap, we saw his cows milling around in the timber, about 100 yards off. We were now at a standstill and couldn't move in any tighter. The bull finally made an appearance, and he was about 125 yards away and already above us. Greg tried raking and bugling, anything to get this bull to move closer to me.
There's a country song, in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that was now. That was a big bull, 7x7 I think. Not about trying to get right down in there and getting up to the top. I'm sure we would have been busted with those cows.
It didn't take long to get onto another bull. On our way in, it looks like Mr. Grizz has already been here. We ended up being above him. Greg was back behind us doing his thing. This bull seemed interested, as he started closing the gap, moving towards Greg's calling. He stopped about 60 yards below us, giving us a show, as he took out his frustration on a sapling. Just like flipping a light switch, this bull lost interest and moved on. With all the excitement throughout the morning, I was feeling much more at ease walking around these mountains. One thing for sure, bear spray was always at the ready.
We heard a bull bugle quite a ways away from us. We went down through the creek and back up the other side, and we were sneaking into the zone where we thought the elk last bugled. And just at the last second, I look up and I see some cows further ahead of us, so maybe 100+ yards ahead of us. Bob turns around and looks at me and says, "There's cows just below us too." And I said, "We got to set up right here. We can't go any further. We're going to get busted." We let out one bugle. He screamed about 50 yards above us. I mean, just shocked us. We looked up and he was sticking his nose over the top of that hill looking right down toward us.
He kept skirting the ridge looking for this other bull. Every time he would stop, it was always behind a tree. He sure didn't like that he couldn't see this other bull. After about 10 minutes, he lost interest and he moved on.
That was better than morning coffee.
So that's what we call the thrill without the kill. That was awesome.
All of a sudden, that right behind us, like 30 yards, just screamed. Scared the crap out of us.
We heard an elk bugle down the bottom, did a big circle around to get the wind in our favor.
He gave out another bugle, so we had a little bit better of a pinpoint. We started making a trek down, and we stopped again to make our final approach. This bull bugled one more time. He was not where we thought he was. He was close, but we would have blown it if we would have went in right where we thought we could. He sounded like he was 200 yards away, and as I got to about the tree where I'd planned on being set up, I wanted to be in front of it.
And all of a sudden I saw just a flick of an ear. I got my glasses up on it, and sure enough, all the cows were laying in the grass. Their ears were flicking back and forth, trying to keep the flies off of them. Bob got set up. I stepped back a little further and raked a tree, and then I gave him a challenge bugle. And he answered immediately.
Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready.
And this bull is now, he's heated and he's curious. So he starts making it across through the open meadow. He's probably about 60 yards out there, and he gives out a bugle. And we know that game is on now. He comes over to a tree that's probably about 45 yards in front of us, and he starts raking some of the blowdown that's there. I was expecting him to continue straight, giving me a broadside shot, but he was coming straight on and looking right through us. A poorly placed shot is every bow hunter's nightmare. I know some of us have been here before. With the way the bull was acting, this was looking better and better.
And he was cutting across, and then he came straight at me. I thought, I don't want to be holding and then not be able to shoot.
Yeah.
And I thought, frontal shot, I'm good at 20 yards, but obviously not.
Well, I was sitting back there watching you, and I couldn't quite tell you. I knew you could see him because you were watching with binos, and you wouldn't turn around when I was calling, so I knew you could see him. And I was hoping he was just going to tip over, and then you were going to jump up and down. But the last time you shot one, when I got to you and Wesley, you know, you guys weren't all that excited, so I didn't think you killed them. So hopefully that's just how it'll turn out this time too. That one though, you saw fall down at 20 yards.
Yeah.
So we knew that was, if you weren't excited then, I don't know how you're going to get excited.
This is, you know, unfortunately, he's have a bad shot.
Let's just hope, and I like the fact that he had his head down and he wasn't feeling good. Because if it was a frontal shoulder shot, he's not, he's going to keep running. Yeah. You got something internal for him to have his head down.
And it was high enough. I mean, I think it was at the right elevation so that it would go through there. Might have hit, and like you said,
it's all we got to do is have it go internal instead of external.
It might have lost a lot of its penetration, but it penetrated in, hopefully
8 inches is pretty deep in the chest, so we'll see what happens.
We gave him some time to expire, and then we went to where we last saw him. Yes! Thank goodness he didn't go more than another 60 yards.
Woo! Awesome. Woo!
Feel pretty lucky that everything came out the way that it did. It's been a real relief to get back out in the mountains and not have any sort of anxiety about being out here in grizzly country. So I've got meat in the freezer, and I've got Greg to thank for this.
Again.
Again.